What's up, guys? I'm Cliff Chance, and I just saw Spider-Man Far From Home, and I'm here to answer the question: is it any good? Um, Before we get into that, I just want to let you know that I will be spoiling some stuff from Endgame. I'll try to keep the Spider-Man stuff for this movie spoiler-free, but to discuss a little bit of the plot, I gotta go into some of the events from Endgame. So if you're one of the few people that didn't contribute to the billions of dollars that film made, don't watch this movie until you've seen this, and then come back and watch this review and let you know if you need to go see Spider-Man. This movie starts off shortly after the events of Endgame. They kind of answer what happens with the second snap, explain a little bit of that, kind of in a funny way. It also starts off with a little memorial or just a little tribute to the fallen heroes from Endgame. And then it kind of jump starts into Peter Parker, kind of shows how he's dealing with losing his mentor, Tony Stark, who, as we all know, died at the end of Endgame. And then he just kind of wants to have a nice summer to himself. He doesn't want to be Spider-Man, wants to go on vacation with his classmates who are going to Europe for a trip. And then that trip kind of gets hijacked by Nick Fury, who lets him know that there's a new hero in town named Mysterio, and he's battling these villains known as the Elementals. And that's pretty much what happens. That's all I can really talk about without spoiling this movie. Now, Spider-Man is is probably my second favorite superhero, right behind Batman. I try to find something I enjoy with all of the movies that have come out, no matter, even though some of them are pretty bad and it's kind of hard to watch them. Like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2, it's probably one of the gold standards for comic book movies. It's very well done, has a great villain. And then, The Amazing Spider-Mans with Andrew Garfield. They're terrible movies. The first one's not that bad, but one of the things that I do like about that is it kind of goes into the scientist that Spider-Man has. It answers that. And each one of those actors do different versions of that character very well. I think Tobey Maguire is a great Peter Parker. He kind of brings the nerdiness to the role. Not great as Spider-Man. I mean, he's good as Spider-Man. And then Andrew Garfield's the reverse. So, getting into the good of this movie, I think Tom Holland has beyond shown that he can play this character perfectly. He's a great Peter Parker. He's a great Spider-Man. Because one of the things about Peter Parker is when he puts on the suit, he becomes, he wants to be the hero that he is in the suit. And Tom Holland does a good job of showing that. And they do a good job showing the scientist that he is, showing how smart this kid is. And Tom Holland portrays that very well. Next up, Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. I very much enjoyed this villain. I'm glad that they finally put him on the big screen. I'm glad they waited until the technology was right to show his powers. Some of his little illusions some of them are quite terrifying and just a lot of fun. Jake Gyllenhaal does a great job playing Quentin Beck. He just does a good job. I can't really go into how he plays him or anything without spoiling anything about this movie, so that's about all I can do. Zendaya, I probably mispronouncing her name, is great as MJ. I like this character a lot more than I liked her in the first Homecoming. I didn't hate her in that movie. She was actually had some humorous lines, but in this one, she kind of opens up a little bit more. She has more of a personality in this movie, and it's really fun to watch. We'll get on a little bit something with her and Peter a little bit later on in the review. Martin Starr as the teacher, Mr. Harrington. I'm glad they gave him more lines in this movie. Because he had probably one of the funniest lines of Homecoming right after the Washington, D.C. trip. And in this one, they give him some great lines, and he has his own scenes where he kind of steals, and I thought he does good. Tony Revolori, I've seen him in a few things, and I've enjoyed him in everything I've seen him in. He does a great job as Flash Thompson, the bully in this movie, and one of the things I kind of like is, in the comics and even the cartoons, Flash is just kind of the jock and always just kind of a bully to Peter Parker, where he also loves Spider-Man, and they do a good job showing that here. But in these new movies, he's at the same school with Peter Parker, so he's a gifted student. He's smart. but he's still a bully. He's still rich and spoiled, and he bullies Peter while still loving Spider-Man, and they do a good job showing that in this movie. Of course, Jon Favreau as Happy, he once again shines, kind of filling in for the mentor role of Tony Stark. And there's some funny scenes with him and Aunt May. The action sequences in this movie, they're fantastic. It's probably some of the best web slinging we've seen in a Spider-Man movie. They're just a lot of fun to watch. I said earlier with the Mysterio, I'm glad that they waited till they could do his effects just right, because a lot of his action scenes are very well done. As far as like the love story goes between these teenagers on this trip in Europe, they're all awkward, they're all hilarious, and they do a good job. And there's a couple of times where they kind of go on a little bit too much, and it kind of takes you out of the movie a little bit, but it's not bad. There's a twist in this movie. If you're a true fan of Spider-Man, you see it coming, but the way they handle it, because they handle it knowing that you're going to see it coming, and I thought they did a very good job showing that. Or portraying it in this movie, excuse me. Just on to the bad, there's a few bad in this movie. There's one aspect of Mysterio that I didn't like, but I can't really get into it without spoiling anything. So, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, or you're a friend of mine, you want to ask me, I'll tell you. And then, as always with some of the Marvel movies, the jokes, like they use jokes to kind of, when they don't really have an answer for something, they kind of throw in a joke there, and it makes it all better. They do that a little bit much in this movie. It's not bad, but it's a little bit. There are credit scenes, so stay to the end. There's one in the middle and one at the end. I did enjoy both of them, but there is one thing that they do in the middle one that I don't like, that they're doing this early, and with only into the second Spider-Man movie. So it's not bad. I just don't like that they're doing it this early. The conclusion for this, I thought Spider-Man was a great follow-up to both Homecoming and Endgame. You kind of want to compare it to Into the Spider-Verse, but you can't. They're two completely different Spider-Man stories, and they're both told very well. Excuse me, getting to the end of the video and blurring my words. But I did think this was a great movie. I think I might have enjoyed this one a little bit more than Homecoming, which I loved Homecoming. I thought the villain in that was great. They changed a little bit to it, but Michael Keaton brought a great villain, just like Jake Gyllenhaal brought a great Mysterio here. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. Let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments below. And if you like this video, come back, like and subscribe to the channel. Is It Any Good? And I'm Cliff Chance. Thank you.